Welcome to this full course on the art of brainstorming and how to use AI in that process. By the end of this video, you should have all of the tools that you need in order to brainstorm any book that you could possibly think of, and not just book, but any kind of screenplay or video game script or anything that you need to write. You'll be able to brainstorm all of the ideas that you need right here. If I had to guess, brainstorming is probably the most common usage of AI in the creative writing process, and it is extremely useful for that endeavor. However, there are a few things about the brainstorming process that can be a little bit too generic, a little bit too general and obvious, and that's where having some good techniques, some good prompts, and other methods that I will show you in this video come in. So if you use these tools that I will give you in this video, you shouldn't have any problem coming up with interesting and original ideas using AI. I have a whole bunch of different techniques. You don't have to use all of them, but you might find one or more of them really beneficial to you. So let's get into those. All right, for demonstration purposes today, I'm going to be using ChatGPT to run all of this, but you could essentially do this in any of the different chatbots out there. Some of them are a little bit better for brainstorming than others. Gemini has traditionally in the past been a really good one, but just for simplicity and because everyone knows ChatGPT, it's the one I'm going to be working with today. I'm going to be using the O1 model where possible. It might be a little bit overkill for this sort of thing, but O1 tends to think a little bit more, and I say that in air quotes because no AI actually thinks, but it goes through a similar process to thinking. So you can sometimes get better options out of it than you can without the O1 model. So the first part of the brainstorming process can be the initial concept. Now, generally speaking, you probably already know the initial concept of your book that you want to write, but maybe there are other books in a series that you want to do. There may be any number of reasons why you're looking for something a little bit different and that you don't necessarily know the initial concept for. So we're going to be using a couple of initial concept prompts to get you that list. And I have three that I use interchangeably. The first one is a plot-based high concept pitch type prompt, which you can put in here. It's give me a number of high concept pitches for a best-selling genre story with a unique twist, intriguing characters, and gripping emotional stakes. So you just put in the number that you want here. Let's just say 20. And for our genre today, let's go with cosmic horror, just because that's been on my mind lately. I read a book on it recently. So let's go ahead and get some ideas for a cosmic horror story. And it gives us a whole bunch of options. Now I'm looking at this and some of them sound good. Some of them sound a little similar. This one is combining cosmic horror with, if you've seen the film Arrival or the short story that it's based on, it sounds a little similar to that. In the distant future where humans have colonized dozens of star systems, that part's not similar, but a derelict alien ship emerges from a black hole. Inside, an immense singing creature, neither alive nor dead, promises transcendence. A human linguist, here's the similar part, grieving the death of her daughter, risks it all to understand the entity's choral code before it remakes reality into a quiet void. So you do have to watch out for anything that might be a little bit too derivative of something else. That's why it's important to be well read in the genre that you planned on writing on. But all in all, these aren't too bad. Another similar prompt is basically the same prompt, but for characters. So the prompt goes, give me a number of ideas. Once again, we'll just say 20 for characters that are part of a best-selling cosmic horror story that are well fleshed out, have strengths and weaknesses, and undergo conflict throughout the course of the story. Briefly describe their character arc. And the reason we're going with this one as opposed to the other one is because most good novels are either very plot-centric or they're very character-centric. Now, you do want both, but usually people start with either an idea for the plot or they start with an idea for the character, and they don't really know what the plot's going to be yet, but they know what the character is going to be. They know what the character arc is going to be. So either one can be a good starting place. And so if we go ahead with this prompt, once again, it gave us a linguist in its first option, a scholarly linguist obsessed with decrypting an alien manuscript, keen intellect, unyielding curiosity, social isolation, fragile sanity. So yeah, it gives us a whole bunch. Let's see if we can find a good one in here. So this one, like Maxime Forlorn. I'm not sure I like the name, but a cult defector who knows secret paths between worlds. That could be interesting. You have a cult defector in a like Cthulhu-like situation. Haunted by guilt, lingering loyalty to past beliefs, struggling between betraying former kin and aiding heroes. He wrestles with remorse and emerges a reluctant guide who dares to save those once his enemies. So yeah, you can probably find a number of good, interesting character ideas in here. The last one that I'm going to give you, this one's actually my favorite, and it's the one that I go to all of the time, is the logline prompt. And this is definitely one, if you already have ideas, it's a good idea to be able to try and boil those ideas down into a log line. But in this case, I wanted to generate a bunch of different ideas. So we're going to say, give me 20 log lines for a cosmic horror story in the style recommended by Blake Snyder that includes the following elements. And then I give it a couple of elements, and then I say it should be 25 to 30 words to concisely capture the essence of the story. That's just to kind of keep it short and brief. I don't necessarily want long drawn out synopses yet. So at this point, we can just go ahead and let that run. Okay, so it gave us a whole bunch of ideas here, 20 of them. And I actually found one that I really liked. This one right here. As a quarantined moon colony's atmosphere fails, its lone botanist struggles to cultivate alien spores that promise salvation only to discover the seed's sentient roots crave human flesh. This is kind of like The Martian, but cosmic horror, which I am all here for. So even though that does bear a lot of similarities to The Martian, including it being a botanist, you might want to change the botanist thing, although it is consistent with the idea of the premise here. It is different enough that this would totally fly as a Hollywood pitch. It's close enough, but different, which is usually what Hollywood actually wants and what humans and audiences want too. They want something that is familiar, yet slightly different. And this is a good example of that. This is The Martian, but as cosmic horror. And that's a great pitch right there. So if we take this, one of the things that I recommend you do during this whole brainstorming process is have a place to catalog your ideas. It could be as simple as just a Word document, which is what I'm going to use today. But if you have like, I don't know, mind mapping tools or sticky notes on your wall or something like that, you can use any of those. But I'm going to take this idea and copy it as the premise that we are going to work with here. So I'm putting that here in my document under concept and just paste that in here. So we're going to be working with this idea going forward. Now, what I like to do in the next step in the brainstorming process is once I have a concept, which you may already have at this point anyway, is we'll create another message here and we're going to do this prompt right here. I'd like to write a genre novel about your idea. Please help me expand on this idea by providing potential details about interesting protagonists, antagonists, side characters, settings, plot twists, and subplots. Make a list of 100 possibilities. And the reason I ask it for a 100 because I really just want it to spitfire a ton of different ideas that I'm just going to pick and choose from. I'm not going to take everything, and I don't want it to give me like a whole paragraph of every single idea that it gives me. I just want just the bare basics. So we're going to go ahead and fill this in. Cosmic horror novel about, I'll just say the following concept, and then I'll copy and paste the concept that we've already established about Martian on the moon. And now it's going to give me a list of 100 things that are related to this concept. And this is just a good all-around brainstorming prompt to just get as many ideas out there as possible. We're not really looking at filtering these ideas right now. We just want as many as possible, and then we can start going through them and really seeing which ones work and which ones don't. All right, so it gave us a whole bunch of details and different characters. Now, this particular story is unique in that it seems to be about one main character. And so a lot of these character details aren't really going to work because we only have one character on the moon. But I do like this one. We have an antagonist here, an off-world corporate liaison, Dr. Elira Vakos, who secretly orchestrated the induction of alien spores to create a proprietary supercrop, now desperate to cover her tracks. So this might be a good one, but we want to make sure it's clear that this person is not on the moon base at the moment. So I'm just going to put this into my document as an antagonist and make sure it's listed as being currently on Earth. I do like this side character though, a child survivor, Lido Morales, who lost both parents and clings to a pet lunar moth, believing it can sense the presence of the flesh-hungry roots. So I think that's actually cool. We can have a second character in there that increases the stakes a little bit because now this main character has to watch out for this little side character. So I'm going to put that in my document as well. And that's just how you go. You just go pick through a bunch of these different details, see what you like. We've got a bunch of setting details here. In fact, I think I could just grab all of these. They're all good enough. Then we can have a plot twist. Looking through these plot twists, I like this one the most. The alien spores are not new. They were planted decades ago by the colony's founders, who knew their eventual transformation would occur as a desperate last resort. So I like this. However, I would probably add a little bit to that because I don't want this just to be a corporate thing. I think it would be good for there to be some sort of supernatural element to it. So I'm going to put this in my document, but just add a little bit of my own information there about how it came in contact with some kind of cosmic entity and triggered something. And that's one of the good things about this brainstorming process is as you see these things, it'll probably give you ideas so you can enhance it and take it to the next level. That's something you definitely want to do. Okay, we got a subplot here that I kind of like, but I'm going to modify modify it a bit. Religious cult emerges, worshiping the spores as divine punishers and offering live sacrifices, complicating rescue attempts and fracturing the community further. So I'm going to make this occur on Earth, making the rescue attempts in particular, so perhaps a cult that's sabotaging the rescue attempts. And I think I have enough to be getting on with here. One other thing that I want to make sure we do is we want to establish what are the tropes for cosmic horror. And so I have another prompt that I'm going to give here, and we can go ahead and just do this in a new chat. I like to start all of my chats fresh so that it's not too colored by the previous chats that we've done. So this prompt is going to go like this. Please give me a list of 30 tropes associated with cosmic horror. And so here it gives us 30 tropes, and you can of course ask for more, but we've got indifferent cosmic entities, insignificant humanity, forbidden knowledge, and the list goes on. And so we can grab and choose which one of these we want. I don't want to use all of them, obviously. No book should use every trope of the genre, but we do want to make sure we have enough in there that it becomes recognizable as a cosmic horror book. So let's go, we'll do forbidden knowledge and eldritch abominations. Do cosmic indifference. We'll do this one here. Ritualistic worship, underground ruins, unnatural geometry, blurring reality, mutation and deformity, ineffable horrors. Maybe let's throw lost civilization in there. Let's say maybe somebody's been on the moon before, and we'll just roll with that for now. So now we've got a whole bunch of information. I'll just show you my document right here. Here's a whole bunch of information that we've sort of cherry picked about this particular story. Now, before I get into combining all of these into a more coherent story, I want to talk about some other brainstorming techniques that you might want to use. These aren't necessarily going to build on what we've done so far. They're just alternate brainstorming techniques that I think are really fun and really useful in some cases. Some of these you might just want to try just for fun because you can get some hilarious answers out of them. But let's go ahead and start a new chat here, and we're going to use a prompt called the what if game. I'd like you to create a list of what if statements related to an ordinary thing. So we pick any kind of ordinary thing to be used in a blank genre story. Please give me number of possibilities. So let's say the ordinary thing is, let's just call that a tech store worker, as in Geek Squad, to be used in a, well, let's just keep going with cosmic horror just for fun, and give me 20 possibilities. So now it's going to play the what if game and combine these two ideas. Many good stories end up being what if concepts. It's like, what if we had this, but with that? So what if the tech store worker discovers a laptop infested with sentient code that murmurs ancient forbidden languages when no one's looking? That almost sounds like a cosmic horror comedy. It could be interesting. What if a tech store worker realizes that some returned hard drives contain faint echoes of disembodied screams, trapped forever in corrupted data sectors, and so on and so forth. And these will all be along those same vibes. Another good way to start out your brainstorming is just to start with the first line. Some authors will actually start their books this way. They won't start a book until they have a good first line. And once they have a good first line, a good hook, then they figure out what the story is. I believe Dean Koontz is one of the authors that does this. So if we were to start a new chat here, here's the prompt. Give me a list of, we'll just say 20 again, potential first lines for a cosmic horror novel. The line should include at least one character, include some kind of conflict, and should be quick, engaging, and action-oriented to hook the reader. So that's just more instruction on what the first line should be. So let's go ahead and give it that. So it gave us a whole bunch of different first lines here. I actually liked this one. High above the frozen dunes, Dr. Marin's distress flare winked out, leaving only the silhouettes of writhing wings. That's interesting to me. I'm asking questions. Some of these are like, okay, but they're a little bit too just action-oriented. Like, as Captain Irelda's boot slipped on the blood-slicked deck, the creature's maw yawned open against a sky of impossible colors. That's almost trying to fit too many cosmic horror elements into one sentence. So I didn't really care for that one. But as you scan through these, you might find some that you're like, actually, that's not too bad. We can roll with that. All right, the next brainstorming technique is news stories. There's two ways to go about this. The first is to say, using the following news story, brainstorm X number of ideas for a genre book, and then you paste the news story here. So we'll say, in this case, we're just going to say 5 ideas for a cosmic horror book. And we're going to give it a news story that's completely unrelated to cosmic horror, an actual real world news story, because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, right? And I just came to my news aggregator here from the BBC and I saw this one. I'm literally doing this right now. I didn't plan any of this. Congress is in disarray as shutdown looms as Trump Musk slam spending deal. So let's go ahead and just grab this. And we're going to grab the entire news story and paste it here. So literally, we're just picking a random news story, has nothing to do with cosmic horror, but we're going to let the AI sort of put some pieces together and see what it can do. When a populist Star-Lord and a technocrat magnate join forces against the fragile bipartisan deal, everyone races to negotiate before cosmic trade routes collapse. All right, so interesting ideas here. A once-in-a-generation funding measure to maintain stabilizer fields around a rogue black hole is derailed by a charismatic returning emperor and his ally, a planetary engineer who claims they can minimize spending by cutting star welfare programs. Interesting ideas. Like, you're definitely getting some different ideas by doing it this way that are not nearly as generic and uninteresting as what you would get without. That's why I like this technique. The other way to do this is kind of in reverse. So you would go, instead of what we just did, we'll say come up with, we'll just do 5 news article teasers covering unusual events, crimes, disasters, or discoveries that could drive the plot of a cosmic horror story. And with this, we're instead asking it to invent news articles that are sort of in world. And that's another good way to get ideas for what could be happening. Breaking: mysterious gigantic fossil unearthed beneath Antarctic ice. Research claims it predates known life. Yeah, so that's a pretty typical premise to a cosmic horror story. Rural town plunged into darkness after singing lights descend. Residents report disturbing visions. So all of this can really just help you with your brainstorming. Another good one, and this is especially good for characters, is to think about job titles. So I do this as a 2-part prompt. The first prompt is give me a list of interesting and unusual professions that one might find in a, and then you insert the setting or genre. So we'll just say cosmic horror setting. And it really took us seriously about the cosmic horror professions. So we've got like chthonic librarians, an archivist of forbidden grimoires, and memory siphoned star charts preserving knowledge that erodes sanity. Okay, so the next prompt would be like this. Please brainstorm a list of plot, character, setting, and theme ideas for a cosmic horror book where the protagonist is a, and then we'll just say chthonic librarians. Let's just roll with that. And from there, you can get a whole bunch of additional ideas for your character and what occupation they might be in and that sort of thing. Plot ideas: forbidden tome retrieval. The protagonist, a chthonic librarian tasked with preserving forbidden grimoires, must journey into the psychic maelstrom of a collapsed star temple to reclaim a codex that may contain instructions for ending an alien deity's slumber if doing so doesn't annihilate all life first. I actually kind of like this idea. It's very sci-fi, not really grounded in human reality at all, but I kind of like that about it. And it gives us a whole bunch of ideas. I'm not going to go through them all. And by the way, if you're interested in all of these prompts that I've been using, I have all of them listed in my prompt library, which you can get for free by joining my free school community. You'll also get my plot module 40 chapter template cheat sheet thing, as well as my AI Foundations mini course that I've developed. Plus, you'll be joining an awesome community. It's replaced the Discord community that I used to have. And it's just a great place to interact with other people interested in AI and also get a bunch of free goodies. So go ahead and get those prompts down below. But let's go ahead and do this next prompt, which is one of my favorites. Give me a blank number. So we'll say 20 ridiculous would you rather scenario questions related to a cosmic horror book about, and then we could leave it at that, or we can add a concept. I'm going to go ahead and add our concept here, which we've already established. And this one, because it's kind of ridiculous, it's not necessarily something you're going to be using in your story, but it can give you some really fun ideas that are just really wacky and out there. But sometimes those really wacky out there ideas are some of the best to really throw something sort of interesting spice into your book and your novel, just to change it up a little bit and make it a little bit more unique. And at the very least, it's just a fun little activity that you could do at home to generate would you rather questions with you and your friends. Would you rather share an oxygen mask with a human flesh-hungry plant root, or lick the spores off its writhing leaves for extra air? Some of these are going to get really dark. Would you rather sleep in a cramped greenhouse that whispers your secrets, or drift alone outside tethered to a decaying oxygen tank listening to distant shrieks? So this is actually gives me an idea that maybe there should be a scene where she's drifting and tethered to a decaying oxygen tank kind of a thing. So maybe that's something we could put. In fact, I'm going to create on my document here a list of events that need to happen. I usually like to have events, just a list of things that are things I know need to happen somewhere in the story, but I don't really know how we're going to plot it out yet. But I'm just going to put that in there. I'm going to say 1 point, the protagonist is spacewalking and can't get back in and has a depleting oxygen tank. We'll just put that in there as part of my document here. Would you rather serve as a colony's official's root tickler to keep plants docile, or chew on their bioluminescent petals for midnight snacks? So you'll get some really weird ones in here. I asked it to be ridiculous, and as a result, some of these questions are going to be quite weird, but sometimes that's a good thing. All right, got a couple more of these for you. The next one that we're going to do is a brainstorming mashup of different things. Now, we've kind of done this. The what if scenario is a mashup of usually 2 different ideas, but we're going to say brainstorm 5 different book ideas using a plausible mashup of cosmic horror, Bugs Bunny, and let's do something else maybe a little less ridiculous. Cosmic horror, Bugs Bunny, and I don't know, let's just go with a tech store worker and see what it does. Warped Wascally Wasteland. Oh my gosh, this is great. A tech store night shift worker stumbles through a portal in the back room and encounters a Bugs Bunny-like entity, guiding them through a reality warped by eldritch entities. They must navigate glitching tech, cosmic carrot cultists. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And writhing horrors. Okay, so this is now my favorite thing ever, and somebody needs to write this, okay? I don't have time to do a cosmic horror comedy like this, but somebody needs to do that. This would be great for any of you AI filmmakers out there who want to do some weird, wacky things with AI video. Just take this idea right here, okay? All right, next one is a societal issue. Now, a lot of you probably get into writing because you have something you want to say. There's something that it's important to you, and you want to express that through the written word. And so to do that, you'd say, I'd like to write a book involving the social issues / values / theme of, and then you insert your issue here. I'm not going to actually demonstrate this one for you because I don't want to like get too political or anything like that, talking about issues that particular importance to me. But then it just goes on to say, please brainstorm a number of ideas for a genre book that can incorporate this issue in a way that is meaningful yet subtle. Make sure the concept is not too preachy and fully explores the issue from multiple angles. So I think this is a great prompt here if you have something in particular that you want to get off your chest. All right, so this next one is one of my favorites. The prompt goes, using the following words, invent a plausible story pitch / character / world building element for a genre book. We'll go ahead and say cosmic horror that incorporates elements related to these words, and then you give it 5 to 10 or so random words. Now, you could go to AI and say generate 10 random words, but the thing is AI is not necessarily going to make it completely random. Because AI is a probability engine, it's not going to necessarily be completely random. And so I like to get an actual random word generator. So you can just Google those, random word generator. Just click on whatever comes first, and we're going to ask for 10 words, all word types, basically everything at default, and you can get a bunch of random words here. So I'm just going to copy these words and put them into our prompt. And this is just a good way of giving it just something extra to deal with. And often with increased restriction comes greater creativity. And so that's what the goal is here. We're just going to put these words in here, and hopefully it's able to create something interesting. And it's giving me like a full synopsis here. Deep in the autumnal countryside, just before the harvest festival. So we've got like cow and pumpkin and things that would probably suggest that to it. A traveling folk researcher stumbles upon an isolated village notorious for its strange rites and unspeakable secrets. In the fields where crops should flourish, the pumpkins grow twisted and bulbous. So there's the pumpkins in there, choked with fibrous veins that seem to pulse under the moonlight. So it's giving me something that's definitely unique and different. And I kind of like that. I like being able to take things that are seemingly random and piece them together in interesting ways. So that could be a fun brainstorming tool for you as well. Those of you who have stuck with me so far, thank you so much. We've got 2 things left, and these are the most important. The first is to brainstorm the ending. And I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to brainstorm the ending before you start getting into the next few phases of creating the synopsis and the outline and all of that, because when the AI knows where it's going, it gives you better output. So the first thing we want to do is brainstorm the ending so far. So let's go ahead, open a new chat. Given the following premise and story information, give me, we'll just say 10 possible endings to this cosmic horror novel. And then we insert the premise and any relevant brainstorming information here. So if I just come back to my document, I'm just going to put the whole thing in here for now. I just wanted to brainstorm the ending. So it's given us a very bleak one here in this first one. Dr. Cordain, her oxygen nearly gone, drifts outside the biodome's cracked panoramic window. Within, the alien roots fully claim the corridors and the surviving colonists. Through the glass, she witnesses Leto's final stand, moth in hand, as the boy's form blurs and merges with the writhing spores. Dark, ChatGPT. That is dark. I feel like usually cosmic horror does have a way out for some of the characters. It's not completely bleak, but it is usually pretty bleak. Just for time's sake, I'm just going to use this one for now. And in our document, I'm going to say the ending is this. And so now we've got that listed here. We have the events that need to happen. We have all of these other elements that we've got here. And now we are ready for the final step, which is to kind of take all of this together and create a succinct synopsis for our story. So the prompt that we're going to use for that looks something like this. Start a new chat. Given the following premise and story information, give me a highly detailed synopsis for a cosmic horror story in the traditional 3-act structure. Each act should be clearly labeled and should build toward the ending I've described. So now all we need to do is take everything that we've got here and just copy and paste it into this chat, and it should give us a decent synopsis of the book that has a beginning, middle, and an end. One of the things that is important for this prompt is to say that it needs to have all 3 acts and that each act should be clearly labeled. Otherwise, it might turn into more of a book description. And a book description is fine, but a book description is meant to sell the book. It's not necessarily meant to describe the entire book, including the ending. We want to know what happens at the end. And so that's why I put that little bit in there so we can make sure that the AI is giving us the ending and not just like some generic, what will happen to them next kind of thing. Oh, and it's giving me quite a long synopsis here, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So yeah, looking through this, it does seem to be covering all of the information that I give it. It's not perfect. You definitely want to sort of smooth together some of the transitions. Sometimes it seems very abrupt, like, and a cult attacked the place on Earth. And so you'd want to address some of those things, make sure everything's properly foreshadowed and all of that. But in general, it gives us a very decent 3-act structure for this story. I would feel totally comfortable taking this and taking it to the next stage, which would be outlining. So this has been a great exercise here. And I hope you've got a better understanding of how brainstorming works and different techniques you can use for brainstorming. Ultimately, it's just all about putting out as many ideas as possible and then cherry picking the ones that feel best and most correct for your story. If this video was good for you, make sure to check out my video about AI basics, because if you don't understand those basics, none of this is really going to work very well for you, especially in the long term as you're trying to take these ideas and shape them into something good. So go check that video out as well, and I will see you in the next one.